Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Carl Sagan could not have predicted 2021, but he did see it coming. He wrote the following back in 1995, and we quote, "I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content and the enormously influential media. The 30-second sound bites now down to 10 seconds or less. Lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance. Roll that around for a while. Those were among his final published words. He died 10 months later. Here we are 25 years later, realizing just what he was trying to tell us back then.
We're very powerful. This country is very powerful. It's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close.
We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
Let's go, fam. Welcome to the live stream. Happy to see you guys here. I am hyped up. So right off the bat, let's talk politics, chat. Number one, Jimmy Kimmel just got fired for being a total piece of shit, and I could not be happier about it. Everybody goes, what about my free speech, chat? What about my free speech? You're stomping on my First Amendment rights. Sorry, you made the rules. We're just using your rules against you now. No one in this world should feel sorry for Jimmy Kimmel. He's a complete piece of shit, and he should never be on television ever again. Feel free to cheer. Feel free to laugh in his face. Feel free to humiliate him. That's what he deserves, because that's how we win. Now, if you guys are not aware, we are in the middle of an information war, a literal information war, and I have no sides. I have no sides in this information war, but when I see disinformation getting pushed, I am going to call it out. I am going to call it out. And that is the same thing that I have been doing, not just to the woke left like Jimmy Kimmel, but also to the woke right. The people like Ian Carroll and Candace Owens, who platformed me, who gave me a chance. I am going to call them out when they are grifting off the tragedy of one of their supposed friends, which is what they did. Let's make no qualms. Let's not sugarcoat it. That's literally what they did. They took Charlie Kirk's death and they invented a fake conspiracy around it for clicks, literally for clicks and money, to advance their own pocketbook. I find that morally reprehensible, and nobody should support it. I don't give a shit if they gave me a platform. I don't care if they invited me to their birthday party. Makes no difference whatsoever to me. And now, of course, after Candace Owens claimed to have some secret information that proves that Israel killed Charlie Kirk, didn't materialize, of course. Everyone knew she was full of shit the whole time. Now she's backtracking. Now she's claiming, I never said it was Israel. Same with Ian Carroll. You guys have to be very cognizant of these types of people. And I want to say the people that were trying to equate me to that, if you are claiming that I am somehow like they are, you have completely not been watching any of my content. I can tell when someone doesn't watch my content because I am nothing like them. I am nothing like them. Most people say, Asher, why are you always focused on that one plane thing? Because it's a real conspiracy that has real evidence proving it's real, including 2 perfectly in sync military videos. 2 perfectly in sync military. I didn't put it behind a paywall. Have I put anything behind a paywall ever? No. Because I hold myself to my own standards. That's why. So don't you dare equate me to these low-rent grifters trying to promote themselves for money and clicks. We are not remotely the same. Not remotely the same. And the people trying to say, oh, you turned on your friend. You're turning on your friend. Shouldn't you support your friends? You mean how she turned on her supposed friend? Her supposed best friend? Who she's not even invited to his memorial, by the way. Not invited to speak. The vice president had to come out today. The vice president had to come out today and tell these people to stop. Because they're literally defiling a good man's grave. And the last thing I want to say about this part is that he has 2 little children. 2 little children. The mom had to lie to the children about their dad being assassinated. Oh, he's going to come back. He's hanging out with Jesus right now. They are going to grow up and have to listen to this fucking slop that these grifting pieces of shit were lying and spreading because they've got Israel brain rot. And they can't possibly imagine that Israel wasn't involved in some event that occurred. Every single thing must be about Israel. And you want to know the worst part? Their fans are worse than they are. And this is why I absolved myself of them. I blocked hundreds of people. I lost 3,000 followers, and I don't give a crap. Because if you look at what they did, they took advantage of these idiots. They took advantage of a bunch of morons who wanted to blame Israel for anything. They took advantage of it. And the worst part is they can't even admit that they lied. They can't even admit that they lied, and they can't apologize. Do you want to know why? This is the worst part. The absolute worst part. The reason why they can't admit they lied is because the moment, if they were to even backtrack a little bit and say, you know what, I was wrong, all of their followers would turn on them. They are completely ideologically captured by their own audience. And I will never be that way. I will never be that way. I don't teach you guys to parrot what I say. I don't teach you guys to say, do whatever Ashton says. You have to think exactly like me. I say, here's the evidence. You come to your own conclusions. You come to your own conclusions. That's what I tell people. Speaking of which, now that we've addressed that, next topic. Congressman Burleson. We are going hard defending Congressman Burleson now. I've seen him under attack. Congressman Burleson shouldn't have released that UFO video. It discredits the UFO community. Fuck you. There are people out there literally saying this. Literally going, this UFO video was probably the best UFO video to be released outside of the MH370 videos, possibly better than the Tic Tac, Gimbal, and Go Fast. And there's literally people gaslighting in the replies going, you shouldn't have released this. It's obviously a balloon. Obviously a balloon. This is a balloon? In what reality is that a balloon? And of course, if you even had to guess who's the person leading the fake charge claiming that this is a balloon and claiming that we're looking at, you can literally see the object skimming across the water. You can literally see the object skimming across the water. This is not parallax. That's not parallax. That's literally an object flying through the sky. You know who's claiming that it's a balloon? Mick fucking West. Every single time, it's Mick West with the fake disinformation. This guy is either the dumbest motherfucker on the face of the earth, or he is literally being paid by the intelligence community to push disinformation. There is no possible way a real human being can be that ignorant. It's just not possible. And so now, of course, because when you look at that video, which I will play again here for you, you know why this is important. The amount of faith, I gained a huge amount of faith in humanity. Huge amount of faith in humanity. Because I was looking through the replies thinking there would be a bunch of idiots going, oh, the balloon, the balloon gate. And I saw, you know what I saw when I went in there? Everybody going, it's plasma. It's plasma. And I just went, hell yeah, we are winning. We are winning. Because I know that if you can recognize plasma like that, then I have been teaching you well. What is the first thing I taught you about plasma, chat? Plasma creates its own electromagnetic fields, which means if the plasma is dense enough, the electromagnetic fields are powerful enough that it can contain the plasma entirely, similar to a smoke ring. You want to know the reason why these disinformation pieces of shit like Mick West are attacking that video? The reason why people are attacking Congressman Burleson over it, saying you shouldn't have released this? Because it's real. Because it's real and it's obviously plasma. It's obviously plasma, and they don't want anyone to know about it. I've told you so many times. I've told you so many times that they can't let anything come out. If any aspect of this technology comes out, the whole thing unravels. The whole thing unravels. The same reason why they stopped talking about triangle formations. They stopped talking about triangle formations. They stopped talking about balls of energy. Lou Elizondo's book talks about balls of energy, 3 balls of energy in a perfect equilateral triangle. It was the only thing the UFO community could talk about before the book was released. And then the MH370 videos got popular. Now nobody has ever asked about the 23-minute video ever since. They never even asked him about him writing about it in his book. Never even asked him about it anymore. No, people were demanding the 23-minute video be released. Demanding it. The moment the book releases, and I go, holy crap, this is just like that MH370 videos. Nobody wanted to talk about it anymore. Do you guys see what's going on? This is what disinformation looks like. This is what disinformation looks like. You're seeing it from Jimmy Kimmel, who went on TV and said that the shooter was MAGA, literally claimed that Charlie Kirk's assassin was MAGA. A homosexual 22-year-old living with a trans furry that wrote anti-fascist stuff on the engraved anti-fascist stuff on the bullet and assassinated Charlie Kirk. Literally, Jimmy Kimmel claimed he was MAGA, and now he's lost his job. Candace Owens made up a completely fake conspiracy theory about Israel assassinating Charlie Kirk based on nothing. Just to further her nut job cause against Israel. And for the record, I have no special love for Israel. The number one question that people have asked me, they say, Ashton, do you think there's a genocide happening in Gaza? Yeah. Yes, I do. I do think they're literally just wiping out Palestine, doing whatever the hell Israel wants to do. I do believe that. That does not give you the right to make up a fake conspiracy about Charlie Kirk's death. Nothing does. And it's abhorrent, and you should be shameful for it. And just like these things, like, why do I call these things out? Because it's disinformation, because we're in an information war. And if we don't believe in the truth, then nobody can find the truth. This is why people say, you believe in teleporting planes? No, I believe in science. I believe in physics. I believe in evidence. These are things that I believe in. I'm not a UFO guy, an alien guy. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm a quantum mechanics guy. I'm an electrical engineering guy. I'm a guy that's read over 100 scientific papers in the last 2 years, well over 100 scientific papers. And you can see the receipts on my 355 plus live streams. And the same disinformation and misinformation is also being used in the UFO community. When you hear these people going, oh, it looks like a balloon. This is obviously just a balloon. Don't look at this. Don't look up, chat. Don't look up. There's nothing there. It's just a balloon. Balloons don't rip into pieces and break into smaller balloons. But plasma does. That's what plasma does. So tonight, I want to explain the conspiracy of MH370. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a literal conspiracy. A literal conspiracy. The other thing that people say is, Ashton, you believe the government? You believe the government? No, I believe in evidence. But let's start with that. Let's start with the government. You could say that I do believe the government. I do, because if they present evidence, I will believe the evidence. I don't care where it comes from. It doesn't matter if it comes from the government. It doesn't matter who it comes from. What does the government say about MH370? Let's start right there. What does the government say about MH370? Oh, let's go check. Nothing. Nothing. There is literally no official cause for what happened to MH370. Do you realize that? I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think that the government said that the pilot crashed the plane. That is false. There is literally no explanation for what happened to the plane. The official explanation is that it's just gone. That's the official explanation. Get that through your head. If Charlie Kirk died and there was no assassin, they were just like, yep, nobody killed him. You'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Nobody killed him. A bullet went through his neck. That would be the equivalent. And if that were the case, I would say, go nuts, man. Go try to find out what happened. I would say maybe wait for his body to be cold before you start doing that, but go ahead. The other major difference, I didn't jump on this conspiracy like right after the plane happened. I didn't even find out about these videos until 2023. That's over 9 years after the plane disappeared. MH370 is a cold case. I encourage you to go onto the MH370 subreddit right now. Go look at when the last post was. It was over 6 months ago. There's not even any news about this plane for 6 months. And you want to know what the last news was? Do you want to know what the last news about MH370 was? The last news was they searched again and they found nothing again. They searched in the spot that every expert, all the fake experts, claim the plane went down in the South Indian Ocean. They searched there. Multiple people boldly claim to know exactly where the plane was, and we just have to send the ships down there to go find it. And they did. They searched. You know what they found? Nothing. Nothing at all. And we're not talking just searching on the ocean surface. We're talking literally searching the ocean floor. A Boeing 777 has 3 million parts. And the search never found one, not even one piece of the plane. Think about that. Let that sink in. This is the equivalent of Charlie Kirk dying, there being no assassin, no gun, and not even a bullet. Can't even find the bullet, chat. Bullet disappeared too. Everything disappeared. Nothing exists. The reason why you could say I'm obsessed with MH370 is because it's clearly the most compelling conspiracy ever, just based on the evidence. Now, the other thing I want to address before we start talking about the details. People will say, all the evidence is fake. Here, let me just run down the evidence. We know who killed Charlie Kirk. It's a nut job leftist who killed Charlie Kirk. No question about it. We literally have video of him running off the roof within 30 seconds of him killing Charlie Kirk. With a gun in his hand. Yes, there is a gun in his hand. I don't care if you don't understand how pixelation works. We have the DNA from his towel. We have the gun. We have the bullets. We have the engraving. We have multiple admissions of guilt by him. Recorded admissions of guilt, including the Discord chat in his Discord where he tells all his friends that he's the one that killed Charlie Kirk. And his own parents, who he also admitted to, who convinced him to turn himself in. That's the end of the story. That's the end of the story. I know some of you want there to be a bigger, deeper conspiracy. You're hitting on 21. It's already been solved. And in fact, the worst part about it is that now, for once, we have enough evidence to actually go after the left because they 100% radicalized this guy. Reddit radicalized him. Twitch streamers radicalized this guy. They broke his mind. And when you start making up a bunch of bullshit about the case, you're letting them off the hook. You're letting those people off the hook with no consequences. Now, the difference between that situation and MH370, what I've been promoting, in order for there to be a conspiracy around this, you have to ignore all that evidence I just said. All that evidence has to be fake. The FBI has to be lying about the evidence. The father has to be lying. The shooter himself has to be lying. You have to believe that the Discord messages are fabricated. You have to believe that the text messages are also fabricated between him and his gay lover. You have to believe all of that is fabricated. And a lot of people go, you can't believe anything that comes out. Ashton, aren't you a conspiracy theorist? How do you believe what these people are saying? I have repeatedly told you that the approach I took with MH370 is not to think that everything is fake. It's the exact opposite. You should be assuming all the evidence is real. If you're not doing that, you are an idiot. You're an idiot. The people that trust the government implicitly, without question, without any evidence, are just as stupid as the people that ignore all the evidence. That is not what I did with MH370. If I did that with MH370, we would never solve the mystery. In fact, the people that ignore all the evidence in MH370, those are the people that were adamant that MH370 got turned into MH17 and shot down over Russia. Those people are retards. MH370 is not MH17. There's no practical way that could even be realistic. And I destroyed that conspiracy theory. That was actually one of the biggest conspiracy theories before I came along. And I came along and I destroyed it because it's stupid as hell. And that's what you get when you ignore all the evidence. You get stupid ass conspiracies that claim, hey, they somehow took this giant Boeing 777, landed it in Amsterdam, loaded it up with a bunch of dead bodies on it, flew it from a major airport. Somehow nobody noticed any of this. None of air traffic control. No one knows. Flew this over Russia with different people on board and then shot it down. This is the kind of brain rot that I do not support. My approach with MH370 is assume all the evidence is real. Assume all the evidence is real. And then systematically only question the evidence when there is no corroborating support for it. And do you know what? How much evidence I had to throw away? It turns out when you take all the evidence, the only thing you have to throw away for the videos to be real is the satellite pings after 1840 UTC. And in fact, you don't even necessarily have to throw them away. This is the crazy part. The difference between the South Indian Ocean and the literal location in the coordinates in the MH370 videos is 10 rows on an Excel spreadsheet. That's the difference. And those Excel spreadsheet rows, they don't say where the plane went. They just have a bunch of random numbers on them. That's it. The people that decided those pings mean the plane went into the South Indian Ocean are a bunch of left-wing bloggers. I wish I could make this up. I'm not even making this up. The government didn't even decide what happened to the plane. It was online internet bloggers that decided the plane went in the South Indian Ocean. And so now when people laugh, when people say, Ashton, how do you believe the evidence? I'm going, the reason why I shot down the internet bloggers is the same thing that I'm doing right now. I'm shooting down the internet bloggers again. The internet bloggers have no clue what the hell they're talking about. And the worst part was I actually believe the plane could have been in the South Indian Ocean early on. And again, I've done live streams. All my content is available so you can see this. None of the, you can prove that everything I'm saying here is accurate. I thought that the coordinates in the videos were of the South Indian Ocean because I said, let's assume all the evidence was real. But the problem was there was a major problem with the evidence. Are you ready for this? This is actually super huge, and I haven't spoken about this in a while. We have coordinates in the Gorgon Stare video. There are coordinates, and those coordinates move. When the screen moves, the coordinates in the bottom move. So what does this mean? This means we can actually map the direction of the plane. We can map the direction of the plane, right? So what we did is we looked at the first coordinate, which is the north-south coordinate. It's like 8 dot something, something, something. If there's a minus sign in front of that coordinate, the plane is in the South Indian Ocean. Wow. I thought that was the case right away. If there's no minus sign, then the plane is in the Nicobar Islands. So which one is correct? Which of the two options is correct? There was an easy way to solve it, and I'm the person who solved this. Nobody else on planet Earth. I'm the person that solved this. I said, map the direction of the plane. If there's a minus sign, it meant the plane must be going north into the east. If there's no minus sign, it means the plane is going south into the east. Simple, right? Just by mapping the coordinates. That's all we had to do. So then we say, how can we tell if the plane is going north into the east or south into the east? Well, let's use our head. If a plane is going north into the east, the plane is going to be turning what direction? Right. Think about it. If you're going north and you turn east, you turn to the right. If you're going south and you turn to the east, you're turning to the left. So let's take a look at the videos. What direction is the plane turning in these videos? Let's see, where is it? Right here. What direction is this plane turning, chat? Can you tell what direction the plane's turning? Is it turning to the right or is it turning to the left? Oh, it's turning to the left. And it's not just one video because we could argue, oh, maybe it's mirrored or something. Both videos have the plane turning to the left. That means this plane is in the Nicobar Islands. 100% proven by science. Absolutely proven by science. This is why I say this is a conspiracy, not a conspiracy theory. We have absolute proof of what's going on in these videos. We know where it's happening. We know when it's happening too. Because once you realize this is the Nicobar Islands, that's when the whole case unraveled. That's when the whole case unraveled. This is wide area motion imagery produced by a drone from above the plane. How insane is that? Wide area motion imagery with a drone above it. The reason why it goes dark like this, the recording hasn't stopped. Somebody closed the window that they were recording. And now it's black. It's still going, by the way. This video is still playing right now. It went black because they were doing a screen recording on a window of Gorgon Stair, and then they closed it. Let me show you what really happened to this plane. I've got a nice little visual here that we haven't shown in a while. The plane takes off at 1642 UTC from Kuala Lumpur, headed to Beijing. At 1719 UTC, the pilot says, "Good night, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Around 1721 UTC, a lithium-ion battery fire explosion occurs and is seen by Mike McKay on an oil rig 300 miles away. He sees fire for 5 to 10 seconds. 9 witnesses along the coast hear loud noises at the same time. The plane goes dark. In the case of a fire, the first response is to pull the main buses and restore the circuits one by one until you have isolated the bad one. If they pulled the buses, the plane would go silent. The plane heads towards Penang, Langkawi International Airport. The pilot knew the train was friendlier towards Langkawi, which was also closer than Kuala Lumpur. At 1730 UTC, there's a communication with another pilot who hears the voice of one of the pilots of MH370. At the same time, 8 fishermen on a boat 10 miles off the coast see the plane flying unusually low, consistent with a depressurization emergency event, attempting to provide oxygen for the passengers. The Malaysian Minister of Defense claims the plane was not identified, but admits they knew it was a non-hostile civilian airliner. The plane flies over Langkawi at 1752 UTC when the co-pilot's cell phone pings a cell tower. The plane doesn't land either due to the fire or because they have communicated a rendezvous point. The plane continues to the Nicobar Islands until around 1840 UTC when a witness, Kate T., sees a glowing orange plane with dark smoke coming out of it. This is consistent with the crew battling the lithium battery fire with halon fire suppression devices, releasing bromine, a halogen gas. Soon after, the videos begin. They show smoke coming out of the back of the plane consistent with the fire. The plane is descending in the videos consistent with an intercepted, Chinese-only reported communication that claims the plane was attempting an emergency landing and disintegrating. The plane's altitude is low in the videos, as proven by the cumulus clouds that only form between 1,000 and 5,000 feet, also consistent with the witness's sighting. Takes off at 1640. Bum, 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 chat. Okay, so what really went down here? What really went down? Let me go ahead and show this again. I'm going to mute this so we can see it. So as I pointed out, what really happened, we were searching where that first stop is right here. We were searching in the South China Sea for 3 days. Why the hell were they searching in the South China Sea? Why were they searching in the South China Sea? They knew the plane did not crash in the South China Sea. They knew it didn't crash in the South China Sea. So we've already caught them lying. We're only 3 days into this story of the missing plane, and we have 100% proof that they lied. They claimed that the plane, they were searching the South China Sea, and then 3 days later, they claim, just kidding, we had military radar of the plane flying over our country. Well, why the hell didn't you say that? This is like Discord lying about not having any evidence about the shooter. The shooter literally admitted what he did in the Discord. And Discord comes out and says, no, there's no evidence. We searched the person's profile and there's no evidence of them communicating about the shooting. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? Now the video, now the Discord messages leak and now we see it. Same deal. So why were they lying about it? That's the biggest red flag right off the bat. Why? Because why would the plane turn around and go directly to the nearest airport? Literally directly to the nearest airport you can land a Boeing 777. Turns around, beelines right towards it. That doesn't sound like a suicidal pilot to me, chat. That sounds like an emergency scenario. But wait, if there's an emergency scenario, then what's going on? Why are you searching for a downed aircraft? Oh, well, they weren't. They knew the plane was in the South China Sea. This is not. Here's another huge data point. This plane turns around, and they claim that the last communication was right before this plane went dark. That's what they claim. They claim the last communication was right before this plane went dark. But there's a problem with that. Somebody else heard the plane. There was another communication. We know there was another communication after the plane supposedly went dark. 10 minutes after this plane goes dark, it turns around and a few people on a boat see the plane. They see the plane. Why is this going so damn slow? And at the same time, another pilot hears the pilots of MH370 give off some kind of distress signal. 10 minutes after the plane goes dark, the plane is roughly where you see here, and another Boeing 777 that was headed to Narita, to Japan, hears the pilot and or co-pilot over static on the radio. Okay, if the pilot was a suicidal pilot, they're not going to go ahead and say, they're not going to be trying to call for help. That's not what you do. If the pilot has control of the plane and he's asphyxiating everybody, he's not going to get on the comms and start communicating with people. So now we know there was communication. So if some other pilot heard the plane, then why didn't the Malaysian military hear the plane? Oh, wait. They did. They did hear the plane. I'm going to go to that clip after I show the rest of this and explain the rest. The pilot gets to Penang and they don't land, but we know they were flying very low. We know they were flying really low. Why? Because the co-pilot's cell phone pings the cell tower. You can only be under 7,000 feet. Only under 7,000 feet. And yes, I'm on Rumble. I'm on Rumble right now live. And so then the plane does another deviation. For whatever reason, they can't land. We still don't know exactly why. I presume the plane was filled with fuel and it wasn't safe for them to land. On fire, etc. The plane deviates again. It doesn't go. If you were a suicidal pilot, you would just fly directly over Indonesia. You would fly in a straight line directly over Indonesia. You wouldn't make another turn. Turn makes no sense whatsoever. They turn again. I suspect the only reason I can come up with why they would turn is because the military came over the comms and said, go to the rendezvous point. The military came over the comms and said, here's the rendezvous point in the Nicobar Islands. Come to the rendezvous point and we will rescue you. That's what you tell the pilot. And the pilot will do it. No question, no doubt. And then the Malaysian government lies again. The amount of times the Malaysian government lied is insane. It gets to the final point here, somewhere around here. This is where they claim they lose radar contact with the plane at 1822 UTC. They claim we've lost contact with the plane. The craziest part, I checked out the 2019 Royal Aeronautical Society report on MH370, this big video presentation they did. One of the things they pull up is all the radars in the area. There were 5 radars in range of the plane when it's at that point, when it's at the final radar ping. There were still 5 radars in range from 3 different countries. India and the Nicobar Islands, Indonesia, obviously, and Thailand. All of them were in range. None of them have ever said anything about what they saw. Think about that. Were they really trying to solve the mystery of the plane? If so, why are they lying about what happened? We know they're lying. Indonesia lied and claimed that their radars were off. Your radars were not off. Stop fucking lying. Radars don't just get turned off. That's not how it works. They're critical defense networks. The radars are on 24/7. Absolute bullshit. What really happened is the United States came in and strong-armed everybody. The United States came in and strong-armed everybody. They told them, don't release the radars, don't say anything, shut up, say nothing. And to go back to the previous point before I show this next clip, people say, do you trust the government? I'll say, if their story makes sense. What is the story that the government has presented to MH370? Nothing. The government has said nothing about MH370. Nothing at all. The only thing that was ever said was the Prime Minister of Malaysia claimed that the plane went down in the South Indian Ocean. I don't even know if he said South Indian Ocean, that the plane went down and everybody was lost. That same prime minister went to prison the next year for being a fraud, a corrupt, scandalous fraud. He went to prison the next year. Does that sound like somebody you should be trusting? And then the next prime minister, who is also the longest tenured prime minister in Malaysian history, Prime Minister Mahathir, comes in and he says the CIA did it. This is the craziest part. The previous prime minister of Malaysia, the same exact day the videos were published on the internet, May 19th, 2014. Time article comes out. Prime Minister of Malaysia claims the CIA was responsible for the disappearance of the plane. Well, 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 wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say? So the government, U.S. government, basically strong-armed Prime Minister Najib. Then he gets thrown in prison for being a piece of shit. And then the other prime minister comes back. Now, just so that nobody claims, wait, where is it? Which one is it? I think this one. Hopefully this is wrong. Nobody claims I'm biased against Candace Owens, even though I literally called her out. I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to play a clip from my interview with Candace Owens right now.
Ask you a question. There are all of these CIA black sites. There are, I mean, Area 51 would be.
Oh, that's not right.
So
that's not the right one. Okay, that's not the right one. Sorry, one sec. Wait, why? Wait a minute. Oh, is this it? Yeah, I think this is the one. Okay. Sorry, chat. I got confused. That was a good clip too, though. Actually, we're not gonna play that one right now. Here, this is the one.
Why is the CIA intent on destroying everywhere?
Wait, that's not it either. Where the hell's the clip? I just had this clip queued up. Damn it. Okay. Well, I guess I'm just gonna have to say it then. Oh, I had a clip ready to go. Where the hell is it? Cybertruck, Gravity, Bill Cooper. Huh. One sec. Oh, is this it? Nah. Okay. So the Minister of Defense for Malaysia did an interview 7 weeks later. Prime Minister of Malaysia. Oh, is that what it's called? I think that might be what it's called. Or Defense Minister. Shit. Man. Hold on, chat. One sec. I'm gonna find it. One sec. Hold on. I know I can grab it. I had it up a second ago. Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay. I called it Prime Minister. Here we go. We got it. Whew. What the hell? Where is it? I think it's hidden somewhere on my computer is why I can't find it. Ah, yeah, okay. It's in podcast clips. Okay. Shit, how do I find this? Okay. Shit. Okay, here we go. Asher podcast. Dude, I'm about to lose my shit right now. Okay, here it is.
With the Australian broadcaster about 7 weeks after this plane disappeared. Plenty of time to have all the facts available. And he won't say anything verifiable about this plane at that point.
An aircraft, unidentified, was detected that morning.
That came out. I've said that at the beginning. And I think that's confirmed by the Prime Minister.
So I want you to just use your own faculties right now. Look at this guy right here. This is the Minister of Defense. And he was the Minister of Transportation. Because the Minister of Transportation quit. The Minister of Transportation quit in the middle of the investigation. Actually, early on. Why? Why would the Minister of Transportation quit? That's pretty weird. Did he quit because he didn't want to be a lying piece of shit? Did he quit because he didn't want to go in front of the cameras and have to lie to people about their dead family members? about what really happened. So instead, this guy ended up being the main player. This interview is 7 weeks after the plane disappeared. This isn't right after the plane disappeared. 7 weeks after the plane disappeared. You tell me if this seems like a trustworthy guy. And the other thing I want you to keep in mind here while I play this clip, I'm going to let it play all the way through. They claim they didn't know what the plane was, right? They claim there was no communications with the plane. They said there's no communications with MH370. The last communication was at 1719 UTC. There was nothing after that, even though we know they're lying because we have another Boeing 777 pilot that heard it, right? Watch how they reveal their own lie here. Again, this is just straight up proof of lying. There's no other explanation other than we can tell this guy must be lying. Ready? Here we go.
What did the military do when it was detected?
Well, I mean, it is an airline that came from our airspace. It's a commercial airline, and the military actually said that they didn't consider it as a hostile aircraft.
Why?
Then,
what were they relying on to come to the conclusion that it wasn't
well,
hostile?
and that's a call by the officer that was in charge of it. And like I said earlier, there was an inquiry under the Royal Military Air Force. That will come out too.
What did you do to determine it wasn't hostile? This is like Donald Trump posted this thing of the guy while he's on trial. Dude's like, have you ever been to the cabin with Fannie Mae or Fannie Willis or whatever the hell her name is? And he just sits there. He's like, ever? He's like, just literally thinking about if he should perjure himself, right? Like, that's what's going on here. It's like, so who said it wasn't hostile? That'll come out. That'll come out.
Well, one thing he does is he slips up. He says they knew it was a commercial plane and they knew it wasn't hostile. That's why they didn't send up jets to track the plane.
That's the first thing. Like, if there's a plane going off course, you're thinking, okay, terrorist attack, and you're why aren't you sending the jets?
And his answers are so crazy. He's like, he asked the interviewer, well, why would we send up jets? Would you shoot down the plane? And she's going, what do you mean shoot down the plane? Like, just track the plane, right? You've got a rogue plane. He said, well, why would we do that? We knew it's not hostile.
So he messed up.
And he messed up because how could you know it's not hostile?
Unless you know it's not
Unless
hostile.
you have communication with the plane, right? That's the only way. Because otherwise it could.
Chat, I miss this Candace Owens. Well, where's this Candace Owens, chat? Why can't we get this Candace Owens back? Why do we got the Candace Owens? I'm going to release the secret text messages that I got that secretly proved the Mossad was behind Charlie Kirk's death. I mean, come on. This Candace Owens was way better, way more reserved.
It'd be a hijacking.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a
First
suicidal
thing,
pilot.
must be, suicidal.
So now we're starting to see what really happened is that they had communication with the plane. They just didn't, they classified those communications. They never released them. Selective release of information, right? Lies by omission. One of the other things he says too is she asks him, why would you shoot down the plane? And he goes, well, the Americans would. And you're like, wait, what? It looks like he's looking at his handler. He gets these weird facial expressions.
Shit is so
the
crazy,
Malaysian people were so upset about this guy in this interview. If you read the YouTube comments, they're like, why is he smiling? Like, who's he looking at? They keep wondering. Like, it's pretty clear in my mind that this guy got the call. Like you've got to toe the line. And he was not prepared for this interview at all.
Why would he say, so he says, say it again, the American people would? So
yeah,
the
it was actually
asked,
offensive to me. It was like he was evoking 9/11, right? Because he's like, she asked him, why shoot down the plane? You know, because she's trying to say like you would just track the plane. Why are you kind of being evasive about this? And he's like, well, the Americans would. And you're like, it's just out of nowhere too. And it's almost like when people have all these lies in their head and they've just got it, they're trying not to get it out, but it just subconsciously gets out there. It's almost like he's saying the Americans talk to him. And he's got to be careful not to say it, but somehow it just kind of blurted out.
Yeah, let's actually check out that moment right now because that sounds crazy.
But why not send the jets up if you have conceded earlier that...
This is literally my favorite clip ever in the whole investigation ever. When I first watched this interview, you guys can go back and watch the first live stream we did watching this interview. I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't believe it was real. I could not believe this interview was real. I have never seen in my whole life before or since a more obvious liar And I'm somebody that played professional poker for several years. And I can tell you, this dude is the worst liar I have ever seen in my life. It almost came across as a Saturday Night Live skit. That's how bad it was. How can you claim that you wouldn't track the plane? You've admitted now, after you lied, that you were tracking the plane, you had it on military radar, but you just let it go? You let a Boeing 777 full of hundreds of people just fly off in the distance for hours? For hours. We're not talking about tracking it for like 5 minutes. They were tracking it for a minimum of 1 hour and 20 minutes. Minimum. They were tracking it for that long, but they don't send a plane up? Well, let's hear his response. Look at his face. Look at his face, chat.
You knew very early in the morning the plane was missing. There was 4.5 hours time in which to respond.
It was not hostile. It was commercial. It was from our airspace. We're not at war with anybody.
How does he know it's not hostile? How does he know it's not hostile? He claims we don't have communication with the plane. How do you know it's not a hostile plane? How do you know he's not going to crash that plane into the Petronas Towers? The Petronas Towers are in Kuala Lumpur, basically upon the flight path. Plane could have just deviated slightly to the left and it could have flown right into the Petronas Towers and took him down. But somehow he knows it's not hostile? There's only one way. They had communication with the plane. They had communication with the plane.
If they did go up, in hindsight, would you agree that we wouldn't be in the situation we are now, which is...
I don't think so. I don't think that's speculative. Even if we send it back, are you going to say that we're going to shoot it down?
Well, you said that, not me.
No, I'm asking you.
I could not possibly.
So what's if we're not going to shoot it down? What's the point of sending it up?
To see where it's going.
Well, to see it going, you need a fighter for that. We're talking about military procedures. And if I did shoot it down, you'll be the first to say, how can you shoot down a commercial airline with 14 nationals, half of them Chinese? I'll be in a worse position probably.
Why shoot it down?
Yeah, bro, who's talking about shooting it down? Why does this guy keep talking about shooting it down? Even the interview doesn't know what's going on. She's like, it's like, are you saying that we're going to shoot it down? She's like, you said that, not me. Why do you keep talking about shooting it down? Like, isn't the plane missing? Why do you keep saying that somebody shot it down? It's so weird.
If it's not hostile.
Well, the Americans would.
Bro. That right there. Put that on the cover of Time magazine when they have to admit that I'm right about this plane. Put that dude's face right there on the cover of Time magazine. Nobody looks like that unless they're straight up lying. Holy shit. Well, the Americans would. Bro, what? The Americans would. Is that what happened? Like, literally, I tell people, if you put me in the room with this dude for 15 minutes, we will have a full confession, 100% guaranteed. Put me in the room with the prime minister, the defense minister. I will extract a full confession about the cover-up, about how Obama made this dude lie, how the CIA was threatening him. Look at what happens next. Look at what happens next. Ready? Watch closely. Where's he looking, chat? Where is he looking? Whoa, what's going on over here? Have you ever been in an interview where all of a sudden you just look off over to the left at somebody off the screen? Are you fucking kidding me, bro? Are you kidding me? Let me replay the last 10 seconds of that.
What's the point of sending it up?
To see where it's going.
Well, to see it going, you need a fighter for that. We're talking about military procedures. And if I did shoot it down, you'll be the first to say, how can you shoot down a commercial airline with 14 nationals, half of them Chinese? I'll be in a worse position probably.
Why shoot it down, though, if it's not hostile?
Well, the Americans would.
Wow. Most
So
psycho shit.
that is remarkably strange. he does this press conference. It kind of yields more questions than answers. Why even mention the Americans? This is an incident that happened in Malaysia, kind of a random country to pick to say something about, and you think he got the call.
Oh, absolutely. And then, going back to the fire, the overall question of like,
so, wow. Okay, so let's talk about what really happened in this plane, right? Let's talk about what really went down. So I'm going to address some of the top questions that people have about this. I'm going to play the videos too. In fact, I'm going to play the side-by-side video while I explain what happened to this plane. So you can really watch how intricate these videos are. Not just intricate, but just perfectly in sync. 2 perfectly in sync videos where we're seeing 3 orbs spinning around the plane in 3 dimensions from 2 completely different angles. This is important because this means that if these videos were faked by no matter who faked them, they would require a 3D render. Do you guys know what that means? That means you would have to create a 3-dimensional environment and then have fake camera angles in your 3-dimensional environment so that you can sync this up like this. You can't sync up 2 videos like this if they're 2-dimensional. This basically alone proves the videos are real. Somehow people are delusional and they have a hard time accepting it. The other thing is you can literally see the air conditioning manifolds in the airplane. You see those spots on the plane, those light spots? A couple of them are doors. You can see the door of the plane on the front and the back, and you can see 6 light spots. That's the air conditioning system. There's no way in hell anybody faked that. Not in a million years. Not in a million years. Nobody that is making 3D renders has any idea of the engineering of the inside of a Boeing 777. You understand how much skill that would require? How many different skill sets you need to pull that off? So what really happened to this plane? Why are they filming it? Why are they filming this, chat? This is the first question they ask. Why are they filming it? Number one, it's an operation. It's an operation. They don't randomly have a drone above this plane and another one horizontal to it. That's not random. We're looking at the MQ-9 right there. Flying right underneath the wing of the plane, or right underneath the trail of the plane. This is an operation. No question, this is an operation. So this is some kind of operation. But still, why film this operation? Well, for one, you need to relay how the operation is going, but there's another reason. Because what we're looking at is a nuclear weapon. Technically, a nuclear weapon. Technically, a weapon of mass destruction. The more I researched plasma, the more I researched even wormholes and this advanced technology, it all goes back to nukes. It goes back to the H-bomb in the 60s, where they were quite literally trying to figure out how to remove the A-bomb portion of a thermonuclear device. And the A-bomb portion is the one that releases the radiation, releases the heat. They were trying to remove that stuff. But the real kicker was when I found and decided to read the classification of nuclear weapons. And I couldn't believe what I found. I literally couldn't believe what I found in the classification of nuclear weapons. The very first classification, Sigma 1 from 1980 or before, is magnetohydrodynamics. It's control of plasma with electromagnetic fields. Look familiar? Control of plasma with electromagnetic fields? That's Sigma 1. Meaning that when they do use nuclear weapons and they do reports on them, they have to put the classifications on the report. Sigma 1, Sigma 11. So they have a classification basically for plasma orbs. Sigma 1. And I read Friedwart Winterberg's textbook on thermonuclear bombs. And in the textbook, he literally says you can hypothetically, basically, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He goes, maybe plasma could be used as the trigger mechanism for a thermonuclear weapon. Wow. Instead of lasers. Instead of lasers. And the other part, look closely what's about to happen right here. Watch the orbs. They converge. They converge at the end. They converge. Why converge? Why the hell would they converge? They converge because it's inertial confinement fusion, ICF. Turns out when you look at thermonuclear weapons, how do they work? Your trigger mechanism converges symmetrically on the object. It's literally what they do. They geometrically, symmetrically, from all angles at the same time, converge on the object to compress it down. And it turns out inertial confinement fusion is sigma 11. Boom. That's why when you go to my Twitter profile, you're going to see sigma 11 right up at the top. Why? Inertial confinement fusion has been classified because of its connection to nuclear weapons. What we are looking at in those videos is a weapon of mass destruction, technically speaking. For anyone who claims, oh, you're changing your story, I'm not changing shit. They are still teleporting that plane. It turns out, whatever the hell they're doing, we don't even have a name for what we're looking at in those videos. We don't even have a name for it. You could call it a nuke maybe, but people think of a nuke as a release of heat and energy. In my opinion, I would call it an aneutronic fusion bomb. I would call it an aneutronic fusion bomb, but I reserve the right to change my mind and change the name later on as we learn more information about it. So why are they filming it? Because they probably film every nuke they set off. Every weapon like that's being recorded. Every weapon. Let me show you something cool. I found something that was in my Discord, I have a private Discord that nobody's in except for me. And somebody that's just in case something were to ever happen to me. I found this video, or found this. Take a look at this, chat. Future drones. Mission system automation. Look at that. That's Gorgon Stair right there. This is literally Gorgon Stair that you're looking at in that image right there. That's Gorgon Stair. Right there. With the pods underneath it. That's literally what's recording MH370. That's what it looks like. The pods underneath the wings. And I'm not talking about the color FLIR video. People get confused. I'm talking about the video from above. Is that. I'm going to read you a paragraph from this. Scroll down here. Deployed on surveillance missions, drones carpet wide areas to provide mission analysts streams of data from electronic surveillance, radar, and imagery in multi- and hyperspectral sensors. Does that sound familiar? The videos of MH370 are multispectral and hyperspectral videos. That's why they're so unusual. That's why it looks like daytime in the videos. We're talking about multispectral cameras that are well beyond commercial capabilities. Analysts use this data to detect signatures and anomalies, indicating the presence of potential targets. Starting to get ominous yet, chat? To support such missions, drones are designed to carry multiple payloads, each gathering data in a specific discipline and spectral range. Each of the cameras is set to a different spectral range because they have different purposes. So the question people ask is, why is the zap white in the Gorgon Stair video, but is black in the color FLIR? Because they're different cameras, because they're different spectrums. That's why. Often, the volume of data being collected is too large to transfer to ground stations using standard data links in real time. Therefore, requiring solutions to provide analysts access to data on board the drone itself. Such capabilities engage analysts to tap the most important and relevant events, investigate signatures of objects, and track different spectral bands, mapping results geographically to explore relevant events in the present as well as the past. So right here, literally talking about rewind capability. It's literally explaining Gorgon stare capability without saying it. That's what this is talking about right here. They're beaming the data from the drone. The drone is flying above the plane. This drone, literally this is flying above the plane, and those pods are connected to a satellite. They're connected to a satellite, NROL-22, the relay satellite. The relay satellite is beaming that data to the ground-based computers. And then it can produce Gorgon stare. Wowzers. So why are they recording? They're recording because it's an operation. They're recording because it's a literal nuclear weapon. They used a fucking nuke on MH370. Just not the kind of nuke that we're familiar with. 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones. Not just 1, 2 MQ-9 Reaper drones. We can see one of them. But it turns out Gorgon stare was almost exclusively on MQ-9 Reapers. So we have a very high possibility, very high probability that the second drone from above is also an MQ-9 Reaper. Why would they do this to the plane? Why do this to MH370? Actually, should we play another? We can probably play another Candace clip here, because the one I was playing in the beginning was the one that actually explains why they did this. What the heck? Here it is. I think it's this one.
I'm going to ask you a question. There are all of these CIA black sites. Area 51 would be a place that we have no idea what goes on there. Mm-hmm. We also know Diego Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
What goes on at these places?
Oh, Diego Garcia is a very secret facility. Of course, we're there. Intelligence is there. Certain sectors of the military are there, but nobody knows what they're doing at Diego Garcia in terms of the public. It just sits there doing the intelligence community's bidding. And of course, recent reports have come out about Diego Garcia's possible role in the Malaysian Flight 370 and its utter disappearance. In my view, there were on board Malaysian, you may know this.
Boom! Gotcha, bitch.
A company that had engineers that were developing chips that could function at room temperature, supercompute at room temperature. Extremely valuable technology to defense and intelligence. They were on that plane. And we mentioned before, I think you have interviewed somebody on this. They finally released some of the footage of the aircraft before it disappeared, and there's objects rotating around the plane, changing its course, and then poof, it's just gone. No wreckage, and the wreckage they claim they found an ocean away wasn't even from that flight. So there's something that really...
Chat, I like that guy. If he wants to spread Israeli conspiracy theories, he gets a pass, chat. We'll give that man a pass. I like him. There's your answer. Why did they do that to the plane? Oh, well, there just happened to be 20 semiconductor engineers working on superconductive microchips. You know what? You might want to go listen to Hard Truths number 4 with Salvatore Pais from like 2 weeks ago. It's basically all about superconductivity and why superconductivity is important and how easy it is to produce superconductivity. Now, superconductivity can potentially, hypothetically, let's say, I don't want to help our adversaries, hypothetically might be able to lower the energy requirement to, bend space-time. Maybe. So they were making 20 engineers. 8 of them are Chinese nationals. 8 of them are Chinese nationals. And they're flying to Beijing, but they work for Freescale Semiconductors, a United States microchip company that is also connected to U.S. aerospace and defense. Literally an NSA report, National Security Agency report, about the commercial emergence of superconductive microchips issued in 2005 calls out Freescale 9 times. 9 times. The report's basically about them. So I think we can safely say that the motive is most likely related to the microchip engineers, because everything is about microchips nowadays. We've got the NVIDIA CEO talking about how many billions of transistors you've got on a tiny microchip that's going to do AI stuff, right? All about microchips. Where did they go? Where did they go? Well, remember how we have coordinates in the video? So we can tell what direction the plane's moving in the video. We can tell the plane is flying to the east in the video. The really weird part about it, we can tell what direction the plane's getting zapped in. We can tell the direction the plane's being zapped in. It all comes back down to electrical engineering. Turns out there's something called the right-hand rule in electrical engineering, which determines the force, the vector of travel, or the force vector, based on electromagnetism. And if you apply the right-hand rule to the plane, assuming that those balls of plasma are electromagnetic balls of energy, it means the plane's going backwards. What? The plane's going backwards? Yes. Okay, so the plane's flying to the east in the video, and it's getting zapped backwards. Let's see. Let me do some math. Beep, 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 boop, boop. Oh, it means the plane's going to the west. The plane's going to the west. Allow me to share a visual. Allow me to share a visual. We made this visual like 2 years ago. Here you go. Here you go, chat. This is all you need to see. This vector you see of the cone, the red cone here, determines the likely travel path of the MH370. Obviously, we can't tell exactly where it went. We don't have videos on the other side, but I will pretty much guarantee they were recording this on the other side. They were almost certainly recording this on the other side. I would say there is a 70% chance that the plane came out on the other side in one piece, and about a 30% chance that the plane came out on the other side and split up into a lot of different pieces, let's just say. I'm not sure. I don't really know how well tested this was, but I will say I'm very confident it's a point-to-point teleportation system. As in, you've got some orbs over here, and you've got some orbs over here, and when the plane disappears, it reappears over here. Simple as that. So where? Somewhere along this vector. Somewhere along that vector up there. And where do I think the plane ended up? Well, look at the map. A bunch of islanders, if you look up here, a bunch of islanders saw the plane in the early morning hours. Now, it's hard to explain how the plane got there, but we're dealing with teleportation. So, you know, who knows? Maybe there's a time dilation effect. Not sure. They saw the plane flying towards Diego Garcia. Literally real witnesses, real people on an island, and not just one, not two, 15 people. 15 people saw the plane on a little island over here. They saw it flying south towards Diego Garcia. Now, that alone would probably not be enough evidence, but it's, you know, it's circumstantial. And Diego Garcia is like the only place you could hide the plane. I don't know where else you're going to hide a Boeing 777. But the other kicker is that Philip Wood literally leaked a photo, a black photo, while he was prisoner on this island. Assuming that the photo is correct. Let's just assume it's correct for the time being. A black photo appears on 4chan like 10 days after the plane disappeared. It says, I'm Philip Wood. I'm being kept prisoner by military. He says, by military. He says, I'm being kept prisoner by military. I don't know where I am, and I think I'm drugged. People look at the photo. It's got coordinates in the photo. Geo coordinates. You know what those geo coordinates are? Diego Garcia military base. Did they ever go look for Philip Wood? No, not once. They never looked for Philip Wood. They lit a specific coordinates to a specific building in Diego Garcia. And Diego Garcia is an admitted black site, meaning there is literally a prison on Diego Garcia where they hold terrorists. Are you ready for the ultimate kicker? Are you ready for this? The Philip Wood photo got debunked. It got debunked, chat. I'll give you one guess. The person that debunked the Philip Wood photo. Who do you think debunked the Philip Wood photo back in 2014? Out of all the people, there's 7 billion people on this planet. Who do you think debunked the Philip Wood photo? It was Mick West. Mick West, the same piece of shit grifter that has been claiming that the Eric Burleson video, Congressman Burleson video, claiming that it's balloons. It's balloons. Everybody just believe it's balloons. Nobody look at it. The same piece of shit that if you go type in Skeptical Inquirer MH370 right now, you're going to see this piece of shit wrote a defamatory article about me, published in the Skeptical Inquirer, claiming that I'm a conspiracy theorist that believes in QAnon and election denialism. Literally defames me in the article. Defames me in the article, claims that anybody that believes this must be a QAnon supporter, must be somebody that believes in election denialism. Falsely claims that there are static cloud pictures were used to make the videos. Does he understand what 3D means? And what does Mick West claim to fame? What is his expertise? Literally nothing. He was a producer or something on Tony Hawk video game one time. That's it. How insane is it that Mick West is the guy that debunked the Philip Wood photo? He's the guy that debunks everything. Very, very weird. The guy is either completely owned by the government or he's one of the dumbest people on the face of the earth. I mean, well, he is one of the dumbest people on the face of the earth either way, but he might just also be owned by the government. So where are the passengers? This is the hardest question to answer. If there was a fire on board the plane, the fire, I spoke to, let's call him JSOC operator, Chad Robichow. Spoke to him on his podcast. Check it out, the Resilient podcast. Great episode. Great episode. And let's just say he might also have been a SEAL. You're not supposed to say if you were a SEAL. You're actually not supposed to say if you were Special Forces, really. You're supposed to keep it quiet, but people don't. He said the fire would have been a backup plan. The fire would have been a backup plan. You set a fire on the plane because if everything doesn't work out, then the plane is just going to crash and you can just claim that it was an accident. And it's actually a perfect cover, right? Planes were burning up from lithium-ion battery fires all the time. So if the plane just ends up going down because the operation doesn't work out, so what? You just say, oh, well, it was just must have been an accident. But the operation worked out. The operation worked out, chat. But this means what happened to the passengers? This means that the passengers either asphyxiated from the smoke of the fire on the plane, or maybe they're still alive. I personally believe that they died from the fire. I believe that you have an hour and 20 minutes from the plane initially going dark, as we saw in the beginning of the stream, to where the plane is in the videos. An hour and 20 minutes. That is a really long time to have smoke distributed out through the cabin. I imagine what would have happened is people would have probably started just passing out. They're going to be sitting in their chairs wondering why it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And they're going to start getting sleepy. They're going to be like, why is it getting hotter on this plane? Boom. And then you never wake up ever again. One of the other surprising things was finding out that you can only inhale one inhalation of lithium-ion battery smoke and you will die. One inhalation. That's how deadly lithium-ion battery fires are. So just to warn you of the danger of lithium, if your scooter starts on fire, do not go try to put it out. Just run the hell away. Run the hell away. Recently, there were 22 people that died in a lithium-ion battery fire in South Korea. There's a video of it. There's a video of them trying to put it out. And you wonder, how could these people have died? They had plenty of time to get away. Plenty of time. Because they inhaled the smoke. GG's. GG's. From the aspect of the fusion bomb or whatever's happening to the plane, obviously, if the plane doesn't come out on the other side in one piece, everybody's dead. So that's certainly a possibility. From an aspect of wormholes, wormholes are considered to be humanly traversable. That means that theoretically, you're not going to die just from this aspect that you went through a wormhole. It's not going to spaghettify you. It's not going to black hole you, in theory. So in theory, well, if everything was peachy, if we're living in unicorns and rainbows and you know, unicorn farts and rainbows and pots of gold, then in theory, when this plane disappears on one side, from the perspective of the passengers, it would seem instantaneous. They would instantaneously be on the other side. So for them, it would seem like there's no passage of time whatsoever. It would seem like they just went through a doorway and now they're on the other side. That's how the physics would work. But here's the weird part. It's possible for that to be the case, and they could have appeared in the future. The plane could disappear on this side at 1840 UTC, and it can appear over here hours later. Isn't that weird? But that's real physics. You don't want to know why? Because when we looked into quantum teleportation, we found out that there is a signaling that happens. Even though it's teleportation, it's not retrocausal. You're not going back in time. And it changes your dial of time. There's a time dilation effect that occurs when you teleport. And the time dilation would be equivalent to the distance divided by the speed of light. But what's the distance? Is the distance from here to here? Or is the distance like this? So we don't know how much of a time dilation effect they would have felt, which is why I think it's not implausible that when those people saw the plane in the sky headed towards Diego Garcia, that plane from the passenger's perspective was, you know, they just went out through a portal. Now it's like in the morning all of a sudden. A few hours went by. So that is theoretically possible. Okay, so the last thing I want to look at here tonight, now that we've reviewed this, now that we've understood that this is like a super weapon, a weapon of mass destruction, what are the implications of this? What are the geopolitical implications of this? People say, why do you want to talk to Nick Fuentes? Because I want to talk to somebody that understands geopolitics. And I think he understands it really well. I want somebody to understand we have doomsday weapons, super weapons beyond our comprehension. And when you look at it from that perspective, when you look at geopolitics from that angle, it's a completely different ballgame. You go, oh, wow, the United States must control the whole planet. And anybody allied with the United States is basically untouchable. And so not to get too much back into the whole Israel-Palestine thing, but the reason why I say Iran just got bitched, the reason why Iran didn't do anything back to the United States, the reason why we destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities and Russia and China didn't do anything, it's because we have unlimited power. We have weapons they don't want to mess with. They don't want this smoke. It's not a matter of me caring about the United States and not, you know, or being on one side or the other. I'm just telling you, we've got super weapons. The team with the super weapons is not to be trifled with. The same reason why I say, well, who's allies of the United States? Oh, turns out Israel is. In fact, Israel isn't just an ally of the United States. We have a weird, incestuous relationship with them. They're a tiny little country in the Middle East, but they have more political power over our country than most countries do. So I would say, I don't know if they have this weaponry, but they're certainly allied with the people that have the weaponry, which means they're not going to lose. They are not going to lose whatever battle they're fighting. You can love it, you can hate that take, but that's the situation. And this is what's so crazy when people get so mad. Ashton, you don't know anything about geopolitics. Iran has so much better weapons. They're going to destroy Israel. Just wait until they come back and destroy Israel. You're going to look so stupid. I just laugh in your face. You must not watch my content if you think that. There is absolutely no chance that Israel's going to lose because they got the Trump card. It's called the United States in their back pocket. It's called super weapons that can just annihilate anything they want. You ever wonder why the Mossad assassinated 9 Iranian nuclear scientists while they slept simultaneously? Why would they take out nuclear scientists? Oh, because they're not going to let Iran touch this weaponry. They're not going to let Iran get anywhere close to this weaponry. Because let's just be honest. If Iran or Palestine gets this kind of weapon, they're going to wipe Israel off the map. They're going to turn Israel into a crater. They're going to send Israel to the next dimension. Without any doubt, that is what will occur. Now that we've said our piece, now that we've laid out the truth, I want to play a video for you. This video is called Diego Garcia Whistleblower, a letter to Ashton Forbes. It is by far the weirdest shit that's ever happened in my entire life. I'm absolutely sure this video is real. As in, somebody sent this video with inside information. I'm not saying that every single thing in the video is real. They might even have thrown some falsehoods into it. They may even have exaggerated certain aspects of it just to have us gain attention. But there's enough information in the video, especially based on what I just told you, which is my own understanding of what happened with this plane, to be pretty sure that whoever sent me this video must know what happened to MH370. So people are going to ask me, who do you think sent you the video? Who sent this video to you? 2 thoughts on this. 1, Chinese government, basically foreign adversary that knows what happened, that is sending the video from the perspective as if they were United States intelligence. The reason why I say that is there are several grammatical mistakes in the video, actually many grammatical mistakes, and the grammatical mistakes in the video are consistent with somebody who's a non-English speaker, somebody with an Asian accent, in fact. The other angle is that it was somebody in the CIA, somebody in the intelligence community that wanted the information out, but they can't legally talk. Nobody can legally talk about these videos. The reason why I get attacked, the reason why people won't touch these videos, the reason why people won't even comment on the videos is because those videos are real, and the classification means that they would go to prison if they talk about them. They would go to prison. Even though the videos are leaked online, that does not declassify them, and these people know it. So somebody that knew what happened wanted the information to come out, but they didn't have a safe way to reveal it. So they posted this video on a now defunct YouTube channel. The sole purpose of them was to get this message to me. They buffered it with different videos before and after. And then all of a sudden, boom, Diego Garcia Whistleblower, a letter to Ashton Forbes. Go ahead and listen to this and tell me if any of this sounds familiar.
A submission sent to us the 8th of January of 2024. It's a letter to an Ashton Forbes telling a new story of what happened to Malaysian Airlines MH370 that disappeared back in 2014. And as always, don't trust what you read on the news. Trust your own capability to see the world for what it really is. Here we go.
I work or have worked at a military base in the Maldives, and I know exactly what happened to Malaysian Airlines MH370. This is also a letter to Ashton Forbes. You are not wrong, and what you do are much bigger than you even can imagine. Don't stop what you are doing. I won't tell anything about myself more than that I currently or in the past has spent time at a military base in the Maldives. That I have done this type of work since I joined the military when I was young, and that was many decades ago. Still in the game, but the years are starting to get to me. I write this because I want the world to know that most of the trouble on Earth are created for political reasons. United States, or at least a covert administrative elite of the U.S., has, at will, complete control, and this has been true since the 60s. Flight MH370 arrived at our base.
I have to pause this. He says, this has been true since the 60s. He says, the United States has had control of the planet since the 60s. This was one of the hardest things for me to reconcile when I first listened to this video. I thought, why does the 60s matter? Isn't that a weird time frame? Did they just make that up? I mean, we dropped the bomb in 1945. So why 1960? Do you guys know the answer? The fusion bomb. The H-bomb. We figured the H-bomb out in the late 50s, and you know what they were doing in the 60s? They were working on Project Ripple. They were trying to figure out, how do we get rid of the A-bomb portion of it and just get the H-bomb with no radiation? Holy shit, he's basically saying, we figured this technology out from trying to make a clean fusion bomb, an aneutronic fusion bomb. This was why now I go, this has to be real.
By our hand, at 1856 UTC after we picked it up, mid-air, outside the island of Great Nicobar. Just one of many, many things we do. We can pick up anything, anywhere, and deliver it in an instant, like a magic FedEx. Some facts about why it happened. MH370 had defectors on board. They were running to China with American technology. They are Chinese by blood and had gotten themselves into a situation with the Chinese regime who got them to choose to defect. The whole play, everything, and I mean everything about it, was a political play to show the Chinese who's their daddy. That's us. Some facts about how it happened. All passengers are dead, all but the handful of deflectors. The plane did not crash. The plane was on fire, we know because we started it. The plane was picked up by us, on fire, mid-air, right in front of the Chinese. The Chinese regime knows exactly what happened, and that was the whole point of the operation. Okay, this is what I want to share with you. As I said, I have been doing this for a long time. I know the technology and have been a part of hundreds of operations. So let's start with the tech. The foundation is not superconductivity. Superconductivity is a product of the technology. We have had this since the 1960s, and from that first day we have used it to make sure that no one else can have it. The big breakthrough to apply the tech as we do today came in the beginning of the 2000s with quantum computers, and by this, the paradigm for AI technology.
Chat, I mean, this is what is like honestly starts to break me. How can this be a lie? He says, we figured this out. He's saying we figured out space-time manipulation in the 60s, but the breakthrough that made it take off was quantum computers. Quantum computers. John Kramer was the one saying that quantum computers can calculate nuclear detonations. Quantum computers are the things. One of the things I can use them for is calculating nuclear detonations, nuclear interactions. And what's the other thing that I say? ER equals EPR. A wormhole is equivalent to quantum entanglement. That directly ties the idea of quantum computers to wormholes. There it is. One thing I want to address. Everybody saying deflectors. Why does he say deflectors? Guys, get over it, chat. It's one letter away from the word defectors. Obviously, it was just an error. Obviously, he says defectors correctly twice and then says deflectors a few more times. Get over it. It's just one grammatical error. It's not the end of the world.
What we had to do programmatically before, we now can do with something akin to machine intuition. This lets us operate in fast-moving environments where event-based logic in linear programming was very limited. As I said, what you have found is not the technology itself, it's just one of many derivatives of the technology. I encourage you to keep on with what you are doing, but you should also be aware that there is a deeper layer that you could focus on instead of the Miami aliens that I see you have been posting about. I will give you some pointers for this at the end of this letter. The products or application you are now working on is correctly based on superconductivity. The number of orbs you've been speculating about is correct. The fourth orb decides where the object ends up. The technology is based on structures, simple and beautiful structures that lets us use the unlimited power that is everywhere and step outside what I would like to describe as perceived reality. The structure that is used for what you are looking at is a metastructure that creates a low complexity and relative low energy phase transition. The beauty of this technology lies in its elegance and simplicity. The structures are inherently stable and self-regulating, and the earlier challenges to conduct operations were 100% based on the limits of man. With the same technology, just a slightly altered monostructure gives us an infinite power generator that without maintenance can run forever. Combine structures to a meta-product again, and you have the propulsion for a transmedium object moving faster than light. It's the definition of magic. There are endless applications, and the truth is that it would change the world in an instant. But that won't happen. I bet yourself, or at least most of your audience, have heard a version of the story that the aliens are here and they want to bless us with new, clean, and revolutionary technology, but we are a too young and rowdy civilization and would not be able to be responsible enough with the gifts from them. That's probably made up, but that is at the same time completely true. It's just not aliens saying this. It's us again. The technology is infinite in its power, and if two rivaling parties had access to it, this world wouldn't last a day.
Let me address a few of those points. The last one first. If two rivaling parties have access to this power, unlimited power, this world would not last one day. When you want to understand why they're hiding this, that's the reason. That's the number one reason, at least in their mind. And they're probably right, especially after what I've seen the last few days. This world is not going to last one day when two rivaling nations have access to this weaponry. How crazy is it that if we just assume this is real, we know why somebody sent me this letter. Why would someone send me this letter? Because I figured it all out. I did something that nobody's ever done. Figured out what they were hiding, what they really were hiding. They were actually hiding this super advanced weaponry based on plasma and geometry. When they say low complexity, they're talking about geometry. They're talking about how if I flip my lighter on, I can make flame happen. They're saying if you make your plasma dense enough, now it creates a smoke ring, and it's just self-stabilizing. Simple structure. And they say, okay, like cymatics, change the frequency, change the standing wave frequency, you change the shape, you change the pattern. Simple structures. When they say low energy phase transition, that's speaking directly to Salvatore Pais. speaking directly to lowering the Schwinger limit using superconductivity. Superconductivity lowers the Schwinger limit, lowers the energy level requirement to produce a wormhole. That's what he's saying in there. How could this be fake? I didn't even know this when he released this video. I didn't even know this when he released the video. And then he says, what's the reason for this? Why are we doing this? Because we had to tell China, who's your daddy, baby? We had to tell him, you're an idiot if you think we're gonna let you get that microchip technology. There ain't no chance you're getting that. We got technology that will vanish your plane off the face of the earth. We can send you to the moon if we want. We can zap you and you're going to show up on the moon. You're going to wonder how you got there. There you go. Says he explains the passengers, the fire event, and it's like a magic FedEx, speaking directly to teleportation. This is the reason why I think that the probability that they survived teleportation is relatively high. Otherwise, I would say that thing got annihilated. There's no way that guy came out on the other side. But he says it's like a magic FedEx. Why did they send this letter? Because I figured this out. Imagine their perspective. When they're watching, they're going, holy shit, this guy is like on it. Like he's just hitting bullseye after bullseye after bullseye, and he doesn't know anything about physics. They were probably freaked out. They probably thought I had some psychic remote viewing powers. And they're like, hey, we better tell this guy what's good, right? That's how I imagine it went down when whoever sent me this letter.
The same technology, with a combination of monostructures, makes a terrifying weapon that turns any matter into dust, and that dust turns into air. It does not matter if the object is a small bird or an aircraft carrier. It cannot be stopped. It does not miss, and when the object has been hit, the phasing cannot be stopped. Okay, so back to MH370. We knew about the deflectors as soon as they made their decision. Well before that, but then they weren't deflectors. Anyway, we knew when, how, and why back in December, and as we do, we made it into politics. We let them go. We took them back and sent the Chinese a clear message of who is in control. And we did this with a brilliantly produced show that is fit for a Hollywood production.
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
I spliced that into this video. That was not in the video originally. That is a Mossad whistleblower after the Hamas pager bombing, whistleblowing to 60 Minutes. And what is he saying? He's saying the exact same thing that the Diego Garcia whistleblower is saying. He's saying we knew about the whole thing. The whole thing was a setup. We knew months in advance. We knew months in advance where these people were going to be, and we set up the operation. We set up the fire. We had the orbs ready. We had it all ready to go. And people say there's no way they could pull this off. Look at what they did with the Hamas pager bombers. They literally controlled the supply chain. They infiltrated the supply chain. This is a long con. That's not the kind of thing you're like, okay, tomorrow we're going to go do the bombing thing with the pagers. No, that's something you set up months in advance, maybe even years in advance. It shows the level of control the intelligence agencies have. It's scary. And it speaks to how they covered up the videos too. People think, oh, you're crazy to think that they planted some cloud photos on the internet. Am I? It's planting cloud photos on the internet from Gorgon Stare Whammy is like the least I expect them to do. I think they created fake websites. I think they created entirely fake websites to cover up a piece of the plane that washed ashore in Thailand. A blog that appeared out of nowhere that claims that, oh, this is a Mitsubishi rocket. That's what these people are capable of doing. And this speaks back to the beginning of this. People say, do you trust the government? No, I know they can pull some shit off. I know Mossad and the CIA can basically pull something off and totally psyop you. I know they can. They can do it, but it doesn't mean they did do it. Doesn't mean they did do it just because they can do it. We have to have plausible reason to believe that.
Any good movie has fire, desperation, regret, and drama. And every movie villain should see their plan fall apart. And in really good movies, just when the villain has accepted that the plan has failed, the heroes of the movie steps in and makes it worse. This is what happened. As soon as we knew what plane was the last leg of their journey, we planned and delivered, so the plane was loaded up with lithium-ion batteries, built by us for this occasion. Lithium-ion batteries cannot be put out, has a predictable burn rate, and we made sure that the volume was just right for a long burn that would allow for a full-length show. The Chinese were following the plane since it was on the tarmac and got to see their most close-to-success operation go up in flames. And just as all hope was lost, we made it worse. Right in front of their eyes, 2 hours and 13 minutes in, they saw the plane get phased out of there by the same technology they were trying to get access to. And 5 days later, the Chinese officially made a gesture of submissiveness by publishing a frame from the satellite of the phase moment via the State Administration for Science.
This is actually, I actually forgot about this evidence. This is some of the craziest shit ever. This is a thing, too, that only I figured out. Nobody else. People try to say I copied the evidence. Dude, I did so much investigative work on this. Why the hell did China leak these photos on the internet 5 days after the plane disappeared? China leaked this photo in addition to 2 other photos on the internet, and it got reported on as debris. Does that look like debris in the ocean to you guys? That doesn't look like debris in the ocean to me. That looks like 3 objects around something. Like pretty clearly 3 objects around something. They leaked these videos. This letter is saying, and if you guys go back, you will find a tweet that I made that I claim this photo is super weird. It's almost like the intelligence agency saying, I know what you did. You'll find my old tweet probably around October of 2023, bringing this up. And now here's this letter going that you are right. This was literally China saying, you win. We know what you did, but we can't prove it.
The publishing was talked about in American newspapers as a possible debris field. But when you know what you are looking at, it's clear what the frame shows. The aftermath. During the 5 days after the show, the Chinese found out about the batteries, that we both made and placed them on the plane.
Chat, China hacked the Malaysian government the next day. China hacked, this is public knowledge. They hacked the Malaysian government the next day and stole classified information about the plane. Why was there classified information about the plane the next day? China was trying to figure out what we did to it. Like, again, this is what a real conspiracy looks like. Not a conspiracy theory. A literal conspiracy to cover up what happened to a missing plane.
They accepted that we have been playing with them the whole time and at the same time could accept that the people they had convinced to deflect did what they wanted. It was us that stopped them. The deflectors had a good corrective experience when it comes to staying loyal and were back on the job as usual, but with a new understanding both of their importance and the consequences of their actions. What was nothing more than another Friday at the office for the administrative elite, 200 people had the most confusing death experience you could imagine. 1,500 people lived a tragedy, losing family members in a mystery, and 10,000s spent months searching and millions speculating for years. Then in 2014, military footage of the event got published on YouTube. Not our problem. The person responsible for the leak was identified and taken care of. Not by us, not our problem. Then came you. Hi, Ashton. Impressive. This is what I want to leave you with. There was a guest on the Joe Rogan podcast that was talking about sacred geometry and some new technology his friends had discovered on some island somewhere. He did record another episode, but it never been published. Doesn't the wording sacred geometry remind you of something? If you choose to spend time on this, which I think you should instead of mall aliens, keep in mind that your case is one product of the technology. What happens on the other island, you will understand this if you pursue it, is another more rudimentary product.
So this is wild. That part right there is literally telling me to find Randall Carlson, who had a pulled episode with Malcolm Bendel. And Malcolm Bendel's whole shtick is plasmoids. His whole shtick is plasmoids. Keep in mind, I had no idea about plasmoids. I had talked to Bob Greenier, but I didn't really understand it. I didn't know anything about plasma, magnetohydrodynamics, any of that. Now you hear me talking about it all the time. I'm literally exposing the fusion cover up now because of all this. How could that person know about plasmoids unless they knew exactly what was going on in these videos? One thing I want to point out, people are saying it's an AI voice. Yeah, it's an AI voice. Are you kidding? What do you think they're going to get on there with their real voice? Of course they're not getting on their real voice. I guarantee you 100% this is not written by AI. That is a human writing that. AI cannot produce a video like this. Or, I mean, they can produce a video, but they can't produce the story like this. This last part, listen carefully. This is the most disturbing part of the whole letter right here at the end.
What if those in combination could lead you on the right path to the actual technology? The gray bearded man is the key, and he probably has no idea that he is. Finally, I want to say this. How do you defeat someone who can turn skyscrapers to dust, completely erase whole neighborhoods in an afternoon, and steal a burning Boeing 777 midair? Someone who, when needed, has the complete control of all media and crafts the perception of events and has most of humanity eating from its hands. After almost a full life in their service, I think I know the answer. You talk about them, and you don't stop talking.
Holy shit. That literally gives me chills every single time. How do you stop somebody that has unlimited power, that controls the media, controls the perception of events, that can convince the whole world that a Boeing 777, one of the biggest planes in the entire fleet, with 3 million components, with 239 people on board, just vanished, just gone, crashed into the ocean without leaving one piece, crashed into the ocean, plane this size, crashes into the ocean, doesn't leave one piece of debris, no debris field whatsoever. We search everywhere, find nothing. How do you do? You brainwash them. You brainwash them. You tell them you believe the authority no matter what the authority tells you. Even when the authority tells you something that is completely counter to all logic and reason, completely counter to the evidence, they control them. So how do you beat somebody like that? You're not going to beat them you're not going to beat them with the law. You're not going to beat them with even necessarily the truth. You just got to talk about it. You got to talk about it. You keep talking about it until people wake up. Why? Because it's real. It's not a LARP. It's real. And so if you keep talking about it, if you keep talking about the truth, eventually people will catch up. Remember what I said with the Ash conformity experiment? How do you break down the Ash conformity experiment? People look at the lines, right? Everybody says, "Oh, it's number one. It's number one. They don't match, but it's number one. Everybody else before me said it's number one too." You go against the grain. You be brave to say what's really going on. The United States is responsible for MH370. We're the ones that zapped the plane. And the scary part is we might have had a legitimate reason. We might have. I FOIA requested the CIA for the reason for why we ran the operation on MH370. And they won't give it to me. They won't give it to me. I want to hear from President Barack Obama why we conducted that operation on that plane. I want to hear it in his own words, not my words, not what I think happened. I want to hear it in his words, what the justification was for why we did that to that plane. The world deserves to know the truth. At the same time, this is not a black and white situation, not even close. We are literally talking about nuclear weapons, but not normal nuclear weapons, something that is almost infinitely more powerful than a standard conventional nuclear weapon. And we can't tiptoe around that reality. We can't just pretend it's all going to be okay if we expose this. Exposing this technology literally gives it over to our adversaries. Literally gives it over to our adversaries. So I don't know. honestly what the right answer is. I don't know if it's even appropriate for me to be doing this. I wake up almost every single day wishing that the government would call me and tell me to stop talking about this. Give me my $10 million. Give me my Scarlett Johansson clone. Because reality is, if I had the opportunity to be on the inside of something like this, I wouldn't talk about it either. I wouldn't talk about it either. That's the sad truth of the situation. And that's how it's been kept hidden. I think that anybody that really gets to the truth of this, they also come to the same conclusion. This is extremely dangerous, extremely scary. And it will change everything about our world if we survive, if we actually can survive. So I'm not telling you what's right or wrong. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you that's the hard truth of our world that we live in. This world is not black and white. It is shades of gray. Let's do some super chats, everybody. Matt, 1776, brother, I love you guys in the pilled chat. Thank you very much, everyone in the pilled chat. I'm not going to go through the whole Candace and Jimmy Kimmel thing. Check it out on Twitter. You can see all the drama, all the beef. The thing I want to say about this, guys, I blocked a lot of people. I attacked a lot of people. I'm not denying it. If those same people come out and they actually push some evidence for anything in the future, I will still listen to them. I will still listen to my worst enemy, somebody I even hate. I will still listen to them if they present evidence and arguments that are compelling. That's the kind of person I am. If you don't believe that, watch the live stream from Monday, because we psyoped Diddy up until the end, and we planned on betraying Diddy at the end. And I had the opportunity to leave Diddy behind with the alien and go with the e-girl and get that hookup. And I went back for Diddy because bros before hoes. Even though Diddy shot me in the head like 10 times, even though he betrayed me, I still came back for him in the end. That's the kind of person I am, chat. Let's do some other super chats here. Okay. Wow, last super chat. My channel, thank you very much. Oh, we're doing the blink thing? Okay. Thank you that. Nick, I'm a big fan, but you're pulling a Corridor Digital. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not pulling a Corridor Digital. This is not equivalent to that whatsoever. Guys, let's just be real. There is no evidence that Israel's involved in Charlie Kirk's death. That's just the reality of it. It's not equivalent to the Corridor Crew thing. It's not equivalent to that at all. I get why you guys feel that way, but the reality is there's just simply no evidence there. And there is a mountain of evidence that this left-wing psycho kid did the event, right? Sometimes you just have to face the facts, face the reality. Mick, and the other last thing about that is that if you see everything, I think Nick Fuentes said this best. I was very impressed. I listened to Nick Fuentes for the first time ever. I expected him to be like a grifting, kind of like what Candace and Ian were doing, which is, being captured by his audience. It would have been very easy for him to be captured by his audience and push that conspiracy theory. And he came out and he said, you know what, guys? There's just not evidence here. It's ridiculous, honestly. The guy Charlie Kirk was a huge Israel supporter. It's ridiculous to claim that he was killed by Israel. And the very people that were saying that he was killed by Israel were saying that he was sucking up to Israel just days before that. They're completely dishonest people. But the real reason why you don't do it is because you discredit yourself when you take weak arguments, weak cases, and you try to force the conclusion that doesn't fit. You discredit your entire movement. That's the number one reason why you shouldn't be pushing that conspiracy theory. There you go. Mick Leonard, great courage. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We are the change. Thank you very much for that huge donation. Appreciate you, man. Sent my style. Can you explain how a craft can be as big as a football stadium on the inside? Yes. So this is crazy, but when we're talking about manipulating space and time, now we have to think of space-time as almost like water, almost like this fluid medium. So if we detach a region of space-time, that region is no longer bound by the spatial dimensions that it was before. It's no longer bound by it. So the idea of how the craft can be easier is if you have an superconducting electromagnetic shell around your craft. Let's say your craft is made out of bismuth, magnesium, zinc. And that creates basically a layer that separates the outside from the inside. Now you've created different spatial dimensions on the inside than what you had on the outside. Now the inside, theoretically, the space on the inside could be like a bubble. And you would say, well, that's not possible because the outside is only this big, but they're not connected to the outside anymore. That's why you can have a craft that's bigger on the inside than on the outside. Now, I don't think we have that technology to be that advanced just yet, although we definitely will get there. That's the part where we need very advanced metamaterials and microchips to pull something off like that. The simpler thing to do is just to spin up a plasma ball. Spinning up a plasma ball is much simpler than creating a craft that completely detaches the outside from space-time and allows for you to basically expand space-time on the inside. But it's pretty much equivalent to what they're doing with the wormhole phenomenon. You imagine that wormhole is like a sink, sucking it down. Well, when you suck that wormhole out, how big is that wormhole? You would say, well, it kind of got squished down. It got squished down into a point, but did it? Does the wormhole have to be a certain size? No, not necessarily. The size is kind of irrelevant. Once you've sucked yourself down to this extra dimension, you've created your own little universe, basically. So I hope I did a good job explaining that. That's the concept around it. Timothy Foster, thank you. Yo, you guys are on fire. Thank you for these donations. Appreciate you guys. Farad, you've done amazing work. Candace is going through the official narrative of our lives. If you're logically consistent, you'll notice the obvious lies. That's not how it works, man. This is part of the problem, too, is that you're like, oh, the lies are just obvious. No, that's an opinion. That's an opinion. What is the evidence? What is the actual evidence? Innuendo, like, oh, here's some a couple times where we spoke slightly critical of Israel. No, that's not evidence, man. Evidence is literally DNA from the shooter, where we have a video of the shooter jumping off the roof minutes later. That's real evidence. Claiming, oh, these people do this all the time. That's not evidence. So a lot of you struggle with the concept of what compelling evidence really is. And you're willing to dismiss compelling evidence for innuendo and speculation. And that, if you keep doing that, it will lead you to the wrong conclusions consistently. It will lead you to the idea that, well, the government lies all the time, so MH370 must have been turned into MH17 and shot down over Ukraine, right? It leads you to those kind of conclusions, which are silly. Because once you start thinking about it, you go, it doesn't make any sense at all. How would you even do that? Why would you even do that? Levi, same technology, but thank you very much for that donation. Same technology they were trying to get access to. It's because it's a 2/3 of a Josephson junction. So I used to shy away from Josephson junction because I do think it's literally the missing link. But everybody's been talking about it now, so who cares? Josephson junction is pretty much a quantum tunneling system. You have a superconductor, an insulator, aka a barrier, and another superconductor. And it causes an electromagnetic, or it causes electricity to have its wave function change. And the electrons that shouldn't be able to pass through the barrier, quantum tunnel right through it. Quantum tunnel right through it. This is the idea that, like, if I were to push on the wall over here, we got this wall over here. If I push on that wall, could you feel it on the other side? You'd be like, well, you might feel a little bit on the other side, but it would block most of the force. That's the same idea as the quantum tunneling. But how is that possible? It shouldn't be possible under classical physics. It's possible because there's an ether of energy. We're in a medium. If you're in a medium, it makes sense that there should be a ripple of force that somehow goes through the wall, because it's going through technically an extra dimension. We just don't perceive it. Now, it might only a small percentage of that force may get through the wall, but some will get through. Thank you, Levi, for that donation. Second donation says, semiconductors and superconductors are 2/3 of a Josephson junction, which is a quantum. Well, okay, there we go. See, you just said the same thing I said. The orbs of the superconductors, the 0 point energy, is the wall. Think about that. The literal statement. The orbs are the superconductors in the Josephson junction. The wall is space-time. The wall is the 0 point energy. So when they converge and create this bubble around the plane, just like you are asking me about the craft on the inside being on the different, they've separated themselves from space-time. Now the barrier is gone. The barrier is gone. And that barrier is also what slows us down. The reason why we don't move everywhere at instantaneous speed is that space-time distance is blocking us. So what they're doing is they're removing distance from the equation. Teleportation. Boom. Dreadmax says, the masked man you add in the video is Stephen Greer. No, it's not Stephen Greer, fam. That would be crazy if it was, but that's definitely like a Mossad whistleblower. Like, that's not Stephen Greer. Stephen Greer wouldn't wear a mask if he was doing it. But that's funny that you mentioned. I think I've heard that before, actually. People think it sounds like him or something. Another donation says, Randall Carlson, the geometry is phi, Fibonacci sequence, or Fibonacci spiral. Yeah, I understand the Fibonacci spiral. I think people talk about this in the form of crop circles. It would be weird if we were to find out that crop circles and geometry in crop circles is somehow connected to the geometry of the orbs or the geometry of how you produce the plasmoids. It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm still skeptical. Again, just like I said before, there's a little bit of, there's speculation and innuendo, but we don't have enough hard proof to prove it. Thank you for those donations. Zapparoo, I saw you in the chat all day. You're on fire, brother. Thank you very much. Huge donation. And another donation from Levi. Fibonacci spiral is how to produce a standing wave. So I think that what Levi's getting to is that the Fibonacci spiral can allow us to anticipate how the object is going to be treated as it goes through this extra dimension. How do we tell how much force will go through the wall? We can potentially figure that out by reverse engineering the spiral, reverse engineering the vortex, which is basically a Fibonacci spiral. Okay, those are good. And then let's see what else we got. Scott Terry, you're so hyperbolic, it causes you to make leaps in logic. Not even close. Not even close. That's not what's happening here, brother. But you're welcome to believe whatever you want. But I think the evidence and the facts speak for themselves. If you disagree, I would say, what is the alternative story? What story makes more sense to you? A suicidal pilot crashed the plane? Where? Where specifically did they crash the plane? Why? Has a suicidal pilot ever done that before? Have they ever gone on an 8-hour joyride? Why did the suicidal pilot not just fly east to the Mariana Trench when the plane went dark? Why did they turn around and go back to the nearest airport? It's the reason why my case is so compelling is it's trivial to poke holes and disprove any other narrative. No other narrative stands up to scrutiny. No other narrative stands up to the scrutiny of the facts and the evidence. And so I understand why it's hard to believe. I mean, I'm telling people that the United States government figured out space-time manipulation from the fusion bomb. But is it really that hard to believe?
We're very powerful. This country is very powerful. It's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close.
You literally must believe that Trump is lying in that statement if you don't believe this story is real. He is literally just openly saying, we have weapons nobody understands. We're super powerful. Nobody is even close. The amount, and again, it's not me who's the one that is the person who's inconsistent. The people that believe, Israel killed Charlie Kirk, but no, there's no way we could have magical technology. You're the one that's ignoring the evidence. I'm not ignoring evidence. You ignore the evidence that clearly this, homosexual guy who's in a relationship with a transfer, captured on video, turned in by his parents, admitted it, have the text messages of him admitting it. You're the one that has to ignore the evidence. You're the one that has to ignore the evidence that we have advanced technology. You have to ignore 2 perfectly in sync military videos. That's undeniable proof. It's not me who's denying the evidence. Leslie, thank you very much. It has been a while. Appreciate you. I do my own work, show prep, and production. This is true. And this is after I worked all day. I literally worked until 5 o'clock today. I passed out for 45 minutes. I woke up. I made those 2 tweets about Candace and Jimmy Kimmel. And then I prepared the live stream for you guys. So you can literally look at my content and map out my day, basically. And when I tweet, it's on my breaks or whatever, and usually pretty quick. Oh, my cat man, Japanese cat man is what I'm going to call you from now on. Sometime you travel to pocket dimensions in dreams. That's an interesting thought. Thank you. A couple more donos. Levi, as the ZPF fills up, it pushes you through. Also the reason why the orbs draw the Fibonacci sequence, the toroidal shape. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. And then the last one here. She's not claiming evidence. No, she is. She was claiming evidence, guys. So that's the thing. You know, Candace Owens claimed to have some secret evidence that proves that, you know, there was a dispute between Israel and Charlie Kirk, and she got demanded that they post the evidence. Doesn't exist. Dave Smith did the same thing. Very disappointed in Dave Smith. Dave Smith first came out and said, these people are nuts. They're doing all this. It's insane. And then the next day he goes, I've got secret text messages too. And he releases the text message, just completely mundane text message. Charlie Kirk being like, yeah, good show on Joe Rogan. like, come on, guys. Like, let's just be real here for a moment, guys. And then John Glock in the Pilled chat gives a cookie. Says, outstanding work. I don't know if you believe in God, but I'm praying for your safety. Of course I believe in God, chat. Of course I believe in God. When you realize, the more you understand about quantum mechanics, and I think the very moment that you realize there's an ether of energy, an extra dimension of energy, once you realize that, I think you have to believe that we live in a construct. This universe is a construct. And all constructs have a creator. What God is to each individual is different. Depends on your religion, depends on your spirituality. But of course, I believe there must be a creator that's out there. So that's my personal opinion. And I think that's a good spot to end it, guys. It's been an amazing live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the follow, and share. And let's get 0 Point Energy Disclosure 2025. I love you, MH370X. Yahtzee! Peace out, guys. Have a great night. Later.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Thin shell formalism, plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, opening gates from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow. From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos.